from the site, and that says to me, and I think to most of us, that we have an issue with the will of the Iraqis.
That was Defense Secretary Ashton Carter talking about how the Iraqi army bailed out when it came to Ramadi. He spoke Friday about how ISIS overran the provincial capital of Anbar province, but the Iraqi prime minister responded by saying that Carter has, and I'm reading directly here, incorrect information, and we should not judge the whole army based off of a single incident. Now, regardless of whose fault it is, there is no debating that things are going from bad to worse. Warlords and Iranian-backed Shia militias, they're now being called on to fight ISIS, and many here are calling for the U.S. to send troops back into Iraq. Now, questions for the table includes what happens if we do nothing and the problem continues to spread. Now, Ellis, I know there's a will, or an absence of a will, I should say, in this country to get back into these undefined messes with no end games and exit strategies and everything else. But we also know that these things don't take care of themselves, and there's no one else riding in to solve it. And look who's filling the vacuum. Iranians, warlords. Is that really how we want this region to get redivided?
It's a whole lot easier to figure out who to be against than it is to figure out who to be for. You're absolutely right. And I bow to no one in my disgust of ISIL. I mean, these people are horrible. I mean, they're scary, they're effective, they're a recruiting machine. On the other hand, if the Iraqi people do not want to defend their nation, if they lay down their arms even when they outnumber their enemies, I don't think there's anything we can do for them. We were there for more than a decade. How long should we stay? 100 years or 1,000 years? No matter how horrible their enemies are, if they will not stand up and fight, I'm sorry, I'm sick of them. I don't want to help them.
But did we do the Iraqis a disservice when we entered the country, that we dismantled the entirety of their armed forces?
Of course.
And then we leave them. And then when we leave them, and again, I'm not
we
for any more.
Eventually,
I'm all for leaving. But when you've dismantled the armed forces, those who are there that may be on the good side of things, willing and trained to serve, to protect the people, now we've dismantled them. Now we have to take a whole another bunch. And those people, those Iraqi troops, the previously Iraqi troops, now they're sitting there. They're ISIL.
We didn't sneak out in the middle of the night like the Baltimore Colts. I mean, we told everybody when we were going to leave. We formed a government. We trained the army. And then the government broke down, and the government wouldn't include minority members in the coalition. What exactly are we supposed to do when the entity that we went in to try to repair, or whatever you want to call it, won't stand up for itself? And there's no central government.
I take issue with the only thing Ellis said, which is how long can we stay there? I seem to see we have forces in Korea right now, and that ended quite a while ago.
Too, okay,
there's no
we have
shooting in Korea right now. I mean, there's no
part of the reason may be because we kept an ongoing presence. I don't know how I feel about this, but to me, Scott, to pretend that this is going to take care of itself, look at what I just said. Iranians and warlords are now coming in to re-police this. Are we really comfortable? Now, obviously, as you look at the numbers here, the American public is very conflicted about this. And I don't want to subscribe to John McCain's knowledge that we have to be the policemen of the world forever, but who else then?
There is a fundamental miscue here. I mean, it's fundamental. There is no nation of Iraq. It's a series of areas.
Biden might have been right.
They were right. I mean, this goes back to thousands of years. There's no nation building here. This isn't Korea. It's different. They don't see Iraq as Iraq. Even those fighting the military aren't. They're either Shiite or Sunni. Look, this is a sectarian battle. Ultimately, Iraq will be divided into three, perhaps two places: Kurds, Sunni, and Shiite. We're fighting with Syria and we're fighting with Iran. We're on the wrong side, not because ISIL's good. It's evil. But you got to select what you got to do. Putting boots on the ground, as they say, although we have boots on the ground, is wrong. It's a wrong approach. What I'm saying is you have to fundamentally redefine what we're trying to accomplish. We want to stop terrorism in its tracks. ISIL is certainly a representative of that. But nation building is over. It's not going to happen.
Okay, say I agree with you. Look at the map and tell me how this ends. What do you think happens when Israel gets threatened, okay? Then do we get involved? This Everybody that's underestimated both ISIS and the regeneration of Al-Qaeda or some other, wackadoo of the moment, we always do it at our peril. I'm only saying, if anybody thinks the next president's not going to have some level of involvement in the Middle East, as much as I don't like it, we are kidding ourselves. I mean, have we been paying no attention for the last couple of years? And I don't find myself wanting to agree with McCain, but I'm sorry,
But Richard, I really believe that if you ask 4 out of 5 Americans, what are we doing in Iraq? I really think they would tell you, I have no idea.
And they might be right.
And they might be right. And so it's a situation almost like quicksand. And, we put a Band-Aid on it, only airstrikes. But we knew that was not going to work from the beginning.
That's right, and I think you're right, and I think the president was wrong from the very beginning. He's not going to eliminate a whole sector of people. By the way, put this in perspective. What about Russia? What about Russia and the NATO and Russian military that are facing each other right now? You're talking about a threat, a real immediate threat, as opposed to sectarian violence. I mean, Israel should be afraid of what? Iran, Syria, ISIL, but they're fighting each other. I mean, there's a smarter policy
also,
here.
what happens, Scott, if Saudi Arabia gets destabilized here? And these aren't just these pie in the sky. I'm not coming to this table with an answer.
Why isn't Saudi Arabia getting involved if their own stability, if their own future is at stake
here? Because they're worried about their own necks at the moment. They're not going to go outside those borders.
Why aren't the Arab states getting involved and starting to get into this fight?
And that's how we get in these problems.
If what we have here at base, right, it's not just these little places, but it's really a collision of two great cultures, right? If we're going to win, if the forces of democracy and the West and openness are going to prevail, in the end, it's going to be a battle we're going to win with something other than bullets and bombs. We're going to convince the world and the people in those parts of the world that blue jeans are better than burqas, that openness is better than darkness. That's the battle. It's not your bombs.
God knows I want you to be right, and you said that great, and I'm fired up. But I thought the whole Arab Spring was about that. They're not that way.
What really angers me, and maybe I'm still a guy looking in the past, is that we had peace over there. We had Saddam Hussein. When he said that it was a crazy place to govern and to rule, I mean, we should have taken him seriously.
I just want you to know we're going to end on missing the good old days of Saddam.
Ask the Kurds if they were.
I understand that it's not. Look,
we'll continue this debate through the break here,
but
I want you to get involved as well and go over to Facebook and Twitter and answer our question, not about the Saddam part, but should the U.S. put more troops back into Iraq? That's an easy one to answer and solve, I'm sure. All right, we come back. Koch brothers, they're spending hundreds of millions of bucks here to obviously try to get a Republican in the White House, and they're also reporting looking to rein in the field. But the question I have for the party is, are they going to be helping or hurting here the folks they're trying to help? We'll get into that and more after this.